Welcome back for another episode of Zack's Garage. We are back in the garage where it all began. We're back at Joey's now.
Hey guys.
Today we are working on a 2002 Craftsman. It's a 9 horsepower, 29-inch snowblower. Rebuilding the car. I'm Zack, and this is my odd garage.
So just send it, right?
Yeah,
Send
walk
it.
us through it.
Send it. Gonna take the fuel line off first.
That's a good idea.
Don't need that. Okay. Here we have our carburetor. Very dirty and old. I have a new thing I'm gonna try today called Chem Dip parts cleaner. Basically, you take your carburetor apart and you let it sit in there for, what was it?
30 minutes.
Like 30 minutes or something, and the solvent in there dissolves all the crud inside that we're probably gonna find in a minute. I'm gonna take this choke assembly piece off and then we'll separate it and we'll talk about it. This is our choke lever, and this is no choke, full choke. Now you see we have this butterfly valve inside here. What that is doing is choking off the air, so you're getting more fuel, and in theory putting more fuel into the engine will help it start easier. Then once it's started, you can shut the choke off and let normal airflow go through. There's still a hole in here to let some flow through, and there's a gap in the bottom as well. So it's not totally cut off, it's just quite a bit. So we're gonna take the bowl off the bottom. I'll try. So I'm taking this gasket off so we can match it up to, Joey's got the rebuild kit here. This bottom bolt is also the main jet, and it is quite dirty. Hopefully they can see this. And I'm guessing a lot of these holes are clogged up pretty bad. Okay. Man, pretty dirty. So this is the bowl. Kind of expect it around the gasket. There's a little crud in the bottom. It looks like somebody was in here before at some point. This is your float, this plastic piece. Sometimes they're brass or plastic. Your float is what allows fuel to fill up in the bowl and then go through the jets. It's upside down right now, so we can imagine the float is, this would be right side up for the camera. So when the level is low like this, it's gonna allow fluid in all the way up till the needle closes on the seat up here. You'll see that when we pull it out. We're gonna pull this pin out. Just a little pin. When you take your float out, you wanna shake it and listen if there's any fluid in there, because you might have pinholes. It's not as likely with the plastic ones. The brass ones get holes a lot easier. So there's nothing in here. And some would be dripping out as well. This bowl also has this, so this is a Tecumseh engine. It's got this feature at the bottom where you push this and it drains the bowl. So this is good. After you're done running your engine, you want to drain the bowl so the fuel doesn't sit in there till the next time it snows pretty much. So that's a cool little thing. I pulled the seat out. The seat is what makes the suction between the needle. So there's the needle on the seat. Once the bowl is full, this closes and no more fuel can come through. I took out the what we believe is the idle mixture screw, and this lovely piece fell out. And you can see that this doesn't look great, and it kind of looks whole with the piece here together. So the screw's broke. We'll probably order a new one. Right now we think it'll just idle really high, but you can access this from the side, so do the cleaning as normal and get a new one of these later. I'm gonna try to get out there's a rubber O-ring that was under the main jet. So Joey got the little O-ring out from under the main jet, which was holding the bowl on. We got everything that we can out, and we can put it in the chem dip and let it sit now. I'm gonna spray the crevices with some carb cleaner first, and then we'll put it in that, and it should do the rest.
Have you any idea what?
So we're letting that sit in the chem dip for like 30 minutes. I don't want to put the bowl in there because it's got this rubber gasket in the bottom. I don't want that to get obliterated. So we're just gonna clean this by hand. We realized that the emulsion tube had a O-ring on each side. So I pushed it up with a screwdriver and we popped the other one off. Now we're gonna put it back in the bathroom. Sorry, Josie.
It's only Carburetor.
It already evaporated, Josie. That was good. We got our emulsion tube, and it's got an O-ring on the bottom and the top, and we're going to push it in through here. And you can use like a drill bit end that's the same size. I have a punch that's a good size. We're just gonna push it in until it seats nicely. So if you didn't hear what Joey said, the emulsion tube makes the fuel into a mist, so it can go into the engine and burn. So that's what shoots it down. All right, so that's that. We need to put our seat in next. The seat has two directions. When we pulled it out, we looked at it, and there's a flat side, which is this side, and the other side has like a groove in it. So whichever way it comes out, you want to put the same way back. We're gonna try it with the punch. It might be a little too small. Okay, quality control. So the seat is what seals the needle in there, and the needle is what lets the fuel in and stops it. Some of the needles have rubber tips, so sometimes you don't need a seat. This one has the seat, and this is all metal. So we're gonna get our float next, and we're gonna hook this in. The needle sits on the bottom of the float, and when the float goes this way, when it needs to fill, it'll fill till the needle closes in the seat. I'm just making sure that the needle is not coming off the little tab underneath if I do this multiple times. So something you can look up, there's a float height. It'll be from the top of this plane here and a plane on the float. A general rule is a little bit below parallel, how this is now. And I was just playing with it this way to watch it. But a lot of times if you're doing more fine carb work, you're gonna wanna get that measurement. Just putting the bowl gasket on. Bowl gasket is on. And the bowl has an indentation side here and this round side. The round side is going to go around the float, and you could kind of see because you got round and then flat, and then the flat side's here. So it's going to go this way so that the float can float up on this side. If it's the other way, it wouldn't work because the float would hit this piece. Got the main jet, and we got our gasket on there, and we're gonna put this all back together. We're gonna use a little dish soap on the gasket. Because it'll dry. You just want to make sure that the gasket is even all the way around. And you don't want to over tighten, just want to snug it up. It's pretty good all the way around. And you also want to make sure you could still hear the float, because otherwise this might have turned. So we put the broken idle screw back in. Probably gonna have to back that out a turn or a turn and a half. We'll see how it runs. Last thing to put on this one is the choke lever. Chokes are all different on every carb engine. This one I'll show you in a minute. It's just this lever. There's a knob that goes on this, and it turns the butterfly valve inside that we were talking about before. The kit might also come with these dish-like things. These are called Welch Plugs. They plug certain parts of the carb. There's one here. There was one inside as well. You have to drill these out and be really careful not to get any of the aluminum inside there. I cleaned them out with the air and the carb cleaner, and we didn't have any issues there, so we didn't feel like we needed to drill them out. Your kit will also come with probably a lot of extra pieces. Doesn't mean you're missing something. It means the kit probably fits a bunch of different carburetors, and they send you a bunch of extra parts. The only thing that we could have used is these new screws, but there's no reason to change the screws on the butterfly unless they're like corroded or anything. They all looked really nice. That is a carb rebuild on an old Tecumseh engine. So I totally forgot to film an outro from the carburetor rebuild video. I'm back home. That is all in. You saw it fire up last week. So the carb rebuild worked great. Let me know if you have questions. Drop a comment below. Subscribe. Follow me on Instagram below. Have a great weekend.